Okay, I'm back. Went in. We're watching part one, and or just the. I guess now it's a part one. We got to a point in this episode where I needed Slurpee, but most importantly, I needed some woods. So I'm back. I wanted to. I was gonna do the remainder of this episode on my sub account on Sir Mids, but then I recognized, I was like, well, what's the point of that if there was someone watching the episode and they wanted to finish out? Why not just pop on here? So we back. Where we left off, we're getting ready to see, this is Jars getting ready to step up onto the podium and give us their take. Shout out to Abundant, sponsor of the podcast. Kick me some Angelica. Tasty. Actually, okay, this works, stutter. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and see what this man has to say. Let me go up here and start from the beginning of them, though.
So I'll make sure we take in the height considerations so we don't give the table such a workout. But go ahead, sir. You state your name for the record. You got 2 minutes.
Thank you. For the record, Brett Meekum, Cannabis Public Affairs, representing my client, Jars Cannabis. We rise in respectful opposition to Senate Bill 1556. Okay. The bill itself, as you've seen, is over 100-page long. To me, nothing says government efficiency like a bill that's over 100 pages. So I guess we're in the right committee. For clarification, hemp is cannabis. As a good friend of mine, and you all know him, former Senator Sonny Borelli would say that it's rope, not dope. Well, today we are talking about how we regulate hemp as dope. Another colleague of yours has shared with me that Luke Air Force Base, the airmen there, some of them have used such similar products, failed their drug tests for having THC in them. As you heard my colleague from the ADA talk about, that this does circumvent the Voter Protection Act. We believe that this should be regulated under DHS, under the statutes the voters passed with the Marijuana Act, as THC is THC. You heard a previous speaker mention that they have been dealing with the Department of Agriculture on a regulatory regime for hemp. This bill deals with the Department of Liquor. How many regulatory regimes does the state of Arizona need to regulate THC products? We have it at the Department of Health. You've also heard some discussion about the Attorney General's opinion. I think it's important to note that the Speaker Pro Tem, as well as the current Speaker of the House on the other side, were the two members that requested that AG's opinion, and she did say that these products across the board are all illegal, and that, you know, the right way to solve this, again, is enforcement dollars. From my minor access concerns, the dispensaries, we have to keep our products at our dispensaries 500 feet away from schools. How far do grocery stores have to be away from schools? How about smoke shops? How about convenience stores?
Same,
or
dog.
liquor stores?
Further.
And also from a regulatory oversight, again, there's been debate on whether this bill is revenue neutral or not. I think from a process standpoint, this is a bill, and I know I have several members of the Senate Appropriations Committee up here today. I think this is a bill that also should be scrutinized by the Appropriations Committee of this chamber, as it does deal in appropriations.
You've reached time on your brief statement. So
thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Meekum, do you think that this is something, I mean, and I asked this question before, that we can just pass to the marijuana law, essentially, that they just control this and they would still be able to be clear, I don't know what the correct term would be, but license establishments that are outside of just dispensaries to sell these products? The question being, let me be clear, would it cut off that level of commerce? Would they not be able to sell them in liquor stores at Total Wine if we did that?
Brett.
Madam Chair, Senator Fernandez, I do think that this should be addressed by the legislature, but under the marijuana statutes, what that looked like would be up to the legislature and how they would do that and get the 3/4 vote to pass such changes, and also changes that would further the act. I know that's not a direct answer, but again, you sitting in the committee are the policymakers on this and how it best should be addressed. We just kind of come and argue the points to you.
Thank you, Mr. Meekum. We were going to bring up Senator Shope for closing out Senate Bill 1556.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Well, that was great. Yeah. I think I mentioned at the very beginning there was going to be some agreement here today, and there's agreement that there needs to be some regulation placed on these items. I told you at the very beginning of this that perhaps we are, not in agreement what that looks like, but that would be the end result. I do want to say that the absence of this body, though, stepping forward to do anything on this right now means that these items continue to be sold with zero guardrails in place to do so. Now, we can talk about whether the Attorney General has issued an opinion on these, and I've seen Attorney Generals from both parties over the years refer to themselves as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the state of Arizona. Their officers are not going into these stores to remove these items, even though their own opinion claims potentially
Besides
that they're
headquarters.
illegal. So that's not happening here, which means they're going to continue to be sold. I would say, if they are generally, and we've heard a little bit about funding, happy to talk about funding and stuff like that. But the reality is you make an example out of one entity, generally in the marketplace corrects itself. They're not going to be doing illegal activity. That has not happened here. I don't foresee it happening here because that takes a little bit of political will and a little bit of the understanding that you are going to experience extreme blowback for pulling something off of the market that people are enjoying currently. I recognize that there are no guardrails in place, which is why I bring the regulation for all of us to discuss. This is the place for that. Putting this with the Department of Health, I've heard that today. No law enforcement authority within the Department of Health. You have to go out and find that law enforcement authority or ask somebody to take it on for you. That's not going to happen unless we're going to authorize a police force for the Department of Health. That's probably not happening.
Who's good?
So
Who's
I
good?
ask you, we heard a little bit about Congress and things, what they're doing potentially. The reality is, I don't care what party's in the majority. I do care what party's in the majority, but the reality is, we know that not much happens in Washington, D.C., okay? So I ask all of you to do what we do on a regular basis here, and that's everything that Washington, D.C. doesn't do, which is continue conversation, make sure we actually pass things that make sense, and I ask you to work together, work with me. You have ideas, bring them to me. Be a part of the solution here that, as mentioned, has zero guardrails in place. I can walk out of this place, and after this committee hearing, maybe I will, and go pick up a can. Or I might just take Mr. Leach's, I'll just, although he may have given his away. He's addicted to Diet Coke anyway, so it's fine.
Who knows what's inside?
Just a can.
Just the can, just the can. But we can sit around and talk about how we don't have concrete answers to things, or we can create the concrete answers to this. And I ask you all to help me create the concrete answers that will put the proper guardrails in place of a product that's already being sold in the state, and I don't foresee, and I'm sure you don't foresee it being pulled off the shelves by anybody at this
What's
point.
up, Pickle?
Thank you, Mr. Shope.
115,000 miles. That's all I got to say.
Of what? What's that? Because
We good? Okay.
Madam Chair, could I just ask a question of the sponsor?
Sure.
Since it's here?
One question.
Yeah, no, just one question. The last time that I remember that Arizona legalized something that was just being done was marijuana, and we did it, but we did it in a very deliberate way. We went to the voters, we asked them. They created this gigantic bureaucratic system, which I guess was justified. I mean, do you think that just shortcutting this is the way to go and say, well, you're doing it already, so let me just wave you in. Now you're doing this legally.
Madam Chair, Mr. Fernandez,
good
I
question.
appreciate that you think that the voters read every single page of the 20-some pages that measure had in it. I'd highly doubt that. I'm sure colleagues of mine don't read every bill that comes across So asking the voters to understand everything that was part of that, no, I don't know that that's realistic. I do think, though, that in this sense, we have, if I will cede to you, maybe on just for the sake of argument here, that perhaps where you're going is this illegal? Because I've heard you ask a couple questions about it under the current law. Well, if it is, who's doing anything? I think it exists in a gray area right now. And if it doesn't, then why isn't it being pulled off the shelf? If it was as clear as day, as black as this counter, it would be pulled off the shelf immediately. And
Facts.
people would understand, and an AG or a sheriff or a county attorney would be able to go back and face the same voters that instituted that law and say, I'm doing exactly what you told me to do by regulating this item. That's not happening.
Thank you, Mr. Shope.
Job.
Okay, Mr. Carroll.
Madam Chair, I move that Senate Bill 1556 with a do pass recommendation.
Seeing there are no amendments, will the secretary please call the roll?
Explain my vote.
Sure.
Thank you, Senator Shope, for sponsoring this enormously tangled bill, and for all of the lobbyists who have worked on it and stakeholders. This clearly we have an enormous need. It's a big problem, and we need to do something about it. So, doing something is way better than doing nothing. I am very concerned about the dosage. I think buying one, if this can were to hold 10 milligrams, I think that's a little, I would either like it to be a smaller dose or just a better warning. So I'm going to take a look at the labels, information in the bill to see what we can do about that. A bigger warning that just says, you should know, this is going to put you out, if that's the case. So that's my concern with it. From what I can tell so far, Department of Liquor Control has the better enforcement process in place than DHS does. And as I recall, DHS has never wanted to do enforcement, and that's kind of been a problem. So, but Department of Liquor, that's their job. And I have spoken to people who have liquor licenses who guard their liquor license very closely and will not violate any laws because that liquor license is worth a lot of money to them, and they do not want to risk it. So I think the Department of Liquor might be a sensible place. I'm still listening, so going forward, today I'm a yes. I will talk with the various sponsors about maybe a stronger label for that dose, because 10 milligrams does seem awfully high from what I learned today. So yes for today. Let's keep on working, and I'm still listening. Anybody else who wants to talk to me?
Pass.
So I have my vote.
Yes.
It's interesting to sit in as not a user. I inhaled once. I fell asleep before the Cheetos. And that was a long, long time ago.
They make Cheetos now?
I've heard today,
I'm as old as you are, so.
I've heard today that Department of Liquor should have this. I've heard today that Department of Ag, I guess my friend and cohort Senator Gowan is running a bill for Department of Ag. I've heard Department of Health all running. I've also heard that what is going on is illegal. That tells me that a yes vote is required, because we clearly don't have a way forward at this point. But a no vote just puts it in the circular can or the shredder, in which there's no more discussion until we get out of here, whenever we get out, and maybe something will happen over the interim. I think by having this today, everybody pretty well knows where everybody's coming from. Not that you didn't before, but you have an opportunity, and now it's on record. You can replay the tape if you want to watch a tape that's 2 hours long or an hour and a half long. But I would encourage you, you've heard everything now. Go back. There's smart people in here on both sides, on all 3, 4 sides of the issue. Get it worked out, And so we come back to Cal and get a bill. And so we get a bill that the governor will sign and get some direction here. And with that, I vote aye.
Madam Chair, may I?
Absolutely.
I think it's important, similar to what Senator Leach said about making sure that there are regulations here around products that are already being sold. I also want to stress that earlier I was not equating marijuana to green beans. I was, in my mind, equating marijuana to alcohol in the way that we regulate alcohol. And I don't think we would be having, this intense of a discussion all the way down to how much is in each drink. Because I do think that consumers have a certain responsibility when they are purchasing these products to, as we always see on the commercials, drink responsibly. And for those folks that work in these industries, they know how to make sure that children aren't taking these off the shelves and purchasing them. Do we need to have some better labeling? Maybe. I think that's something we can talk about. But I don't think that that is reason enough to shut down a bill of this nature that is going to put common sense regulations around a product that is widely used and widely wanted by the general public. So with that, I vote yes.
Good for her.
Pass.
Senator Fernandez.
Madam Chair, thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh, she said no.
I didn't say no. I just smiled at him.
Yeah. I actually don't want these products to be outlawed in any way, and I want the commerce to continue. I do think that there's probably a better way of doing this. I'm not crazy about the marriage that whoever came up with this of one drink just because they've been wanting to get a lower tax rate, which everyone wants lower taxes, decides to use this as their vehicle to get in there, and that's fine. I mean, we do a lot of these little insider deals every year, but I would like to figure out a way for us to tax this responsibly and understand that we do need to have regulation on this and safety. And I'm right now I'm going to be a no, but I hope that we can continue working on this.
Senator Payne.
Hey, what do you say?
Senator Carroll.
Madam Chair,
Absolutely.
I'm just going to
I'm going to be a no, but I hope that we can continue working on this.
Senator Payne.
Aye. Nice.
Senator Carroll.
Madam Chair,
Absolutely.
I'm just going to be really brief on this. A lot of great opinions that were presented, a lot of thought to consider here, and as with opinions, they're not right or wrong, they're just to be considered. I think the bill sponsors is doing a great job about being open to continuing the discussion. I did text my spouse and tell her to go over to Total Wine and pick up my non-THC order just in case they get closed down. And I will be yes today.
Well, thank you for everybody that came in to hear this important bill. Obviously, for the last couple of years, I've been trying to figure out a way to regulate this and put some guardrails up. Kudos to the sponsor for enduring sitting here for some of his bills this afternoon. As a parent of kids who are now 20 and 22, it's kind of crazy for me to think that down in Tempe, my kids could just walk into a coffee shop, obviously, my daughter who's 20, and potentially get this, probably without even getting carded. I have no idea. To Mr. Fernandez's point earlier, we used to take our kids traveling all over the world. Most European countries, you can basically get away with doing probably anything you want to do, probably THC, alcohol-wise, and America's a little bit different. Obviously, now we have an age for vaping at 21. I disagreed with that at the time, whenever Trump did that in his last administration. Obviously, we want to make sure things are safe, and we should have certain protocols that we're following. Right now, none of that is happening. There's no enforcement. There's no teeth. I don't like the idea that I potentially would walk into a Total Wine store and see the products there. I've not been into a Total Wine store in a while, so I might take a field trip over the next couple of days. Hey, it's Statehood Day tomorrow and Valentine's Day, so maybe I'll go today after this meeting if we get out here on time. But I personally think that the way forward is to keep working together. Obviously, not everybody agrees. You don't always get what you want. There's a lot of heartburn being in this place. And today I will vote aye to ensure that the senator can continue working with hopefully both sides to ensure we are actually getting the bill that we really need up on the floor and then over to the House.
6 ayes, 1 nay, and 0 not voting.
By your vote of 6 ayes, 1 no, and 0 not voting, you have given Senate Bill 1556 a do pass recommendation.
There it is. Shout out to Kush Chronicles. Allison out there always keeping me informed, keeping me in the skinny. I'm for that bill. I would say, look, let's get it. I'm for the bill because it takes cannabis, you know, it stamps what's going on, what we're seeing. I'm seeing enough consumer demand for it, right? We're seeing it open it up, or, you know, other businesses outside of the very few license owners that are here in Arizona. I mean, you look at the Waken Bakery, which they mentioned. Let's just regulate it. You know, a hemp license is currently very affordable in comparison to a cannabis license. We're talking like $1,500, you know, or less in order to obtain a hemp license for either distribution, cultivation, and retail. You just need your TPT currently. So definitely interested to see how this plays out. That was quite the hearing. So marijuana, appreciate you popping in here watching this. Now I really am going to switch over to Sir Mids, but I just wanted to watch that, have that on record here on High in Arizona. Thank you so much for popping in. If you still want to kick it, I'll be over there on Sir Mids. See you over there.